Hello, everyone, and I just want to welcome you to our September What's Working webinar series. I hope everyone is having a lovely day. We have three really great members today who are going to talk to us all about their best practices. We have from Arlington Independent School District, Susan Patterson, from Micron Technology, Kathy Emirati, and from Black & Veatch, Katie Schultz. As a reminder, our What's Working series is a collection of our members' best practices that showcase some of our most promising and successful initiatives to close the gaps in the STEM talent development. These practices and efforts do not achieve success without overcoming some hurdles, and we hope that our audience will learn from the obstacles our members have faced and the steps they've taken to surmount them, as well as be inspired by the insights into the impact and larger implications of each of these initiatives. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Stephen Wirtz to talk about Arlington Independent School District. Dr. Wirtz.
And giving us an opportunity to share some of our practices that are happening in Arlington ISD. As you mentioned, I'm joined also today by Susan Patterson, the director of our Career and Tech Education Program, and Carrie Winter, our practicum specialist, who will also be sharing some details. So next slide. So what I wanted to start off with this morning is to share a little bit about what our goal is. In Arlington, we're very focused on equity. And so we do articulate a goal that 100% of our students would graduate exceptionally prepared for college, career, and citizenship. And so we spend some time actually asking ourselves what exceptionally prepared means and what are the experiences that students would have to have every day in order to acquire the skills needed to be exceptionally prepared. And when we talk about exceptional preparation for our students, we do look beyond the skill sets that are acquired simply through academic knowledge. We want students to develop critical soft skills that we know that when they enter the workforce will allow them to be successful in whichever environment they choose, specifically things like problem solving, collaboration, communication, being self-directed, modeling responsible citizenship. And so our goal is to not only design learning experiences that allow students to acquire content, but to do so in a way that is attached to a relevant real world situation where they can actually acquire and maintain these skills. So next slide. What I thought I would share is what our goals are. So in Arlington ISD, our program goals are really centered around one thing, and that's really preparing our students to pursue a STEM-focused career educational pathway by leveraging some initiatives here in our K-12 system that are created to help them transition from all the way back in their elementary beginning points to college and then in their career. And we intend to do this by a few things. The first one is we want to make sure that our students have opportunities to engage in STEM learning actually in practice, engage in opportunities where they can actually apply the skills that they're learning through exposure to real world scenarios where they are working on projects and demonstrating their learning through hands-on experiences. We also work to cultivate specific skills, and I had mentioned earlier some of the specific soft skills that we measure, but the goal is that our students are really able to function in a highly adaptable environment so that they can be competitive with some of their global competitors that we know all of them will face when they leave us. We also want our students to be highly marketable. Some of the things that we try to do is to work closely with our business partners to ensure that our curriculum is infused with things that we know that our business partners are actually going to need in the workforce, so that our students are not only acquiring content knowledge, but actually doing so in a way that is aligned to the workforce or the areas of the workforce that they intend to be employed in. And then finally, we want to give our kids opportunities to engage in experiences where they can network and build connections professionally so that when they are with us, they're learning from people who are authentic audiences, and also so they can actually acquire positions that meet their interests when they leave us. Next slide. So our first, when we think about our students when they come to us, our goal is to really try to build an equitable program pathway for students. And we intentionally are trying to design programs that allow students to become engaged in STEM learning very early on in their educational career. We know that STEM, there is work to be done in the STEM area in terms of recruiting minority students, students of color, and women. And so our goal is to provide all of our students with access early on so we can begin to pique their interest and help them to see themselves in these fields. And so in Arlington, we've opened a STEM Academy at Piercy Elementary. And this STEM Academy provides students with opportunities to be involved in problem-based learning, where they can apply their concepts around mathematics and science in real-world scenarios in such a way that they can build those life-ready skills and apply those concepts. Each of the teachers at this school are actually being certified or are certified as a STEM teacher through the National Institute for STEM Education. And the idea is that we take the basic concepts or the concepts and standards that we want students to learn even in the academic environment and frame them in a STEM pathway that allows students to apply those skills in a real world way. The next slide we wanted to share with you is what happens when students leave elementary and they move into junior high. Well, in Arlington, our elementary schools go from pre-K to 6, and junior high begins in 7th and 8th grade. And we have in the 7th and 8th grade grade levels, Project Lead the Way, Gateway to Technology course. And you can see on the slide the specific content areas or subject areas that are addressed through that course. But the idea behind the Project Lead the Way course curriculum is to give students an opportunity to feel empowered by owning their learning and really discovering things. So this happens through a hands-on learning environment where kids are able to collaborate with each other and to really start to dive into these specific areas in a way that allows them to comprehend things in a deeper way. And then moving on to high school, on the next slide, we have a couple of ways that we address our students across our district. Our capstone, or I would say probably our forefront school around STEM is our STEM Academy, which is housed at Martin High School. Our STEM Academy admits students, about 125 students to 150 students every year starting in their freshman year, and they matriculate through the high school for all 4 years. And it's the model is a school within the school. So students actually take their courses, their STEM related courses starting in their freshman year, but when they get to their junior and senior years, they take those courses at the University of Texas at Arlington, where they are earning dual credit in STEM pathways. This gears them up so that they can easily transition into a university of their choice, many of which continue on at the University of Texas Arlington. We had 2 students last year that actually were admitted into MIT. And if you were to look at a map across the country, we would see many of our students are dotted all over the country as they pursue STEM pathways. A couple of just highlights that are kind of fun and interesting is Arlington's STEM Academy placed 3rd this year. It's the first time they've ever competed in the solar car team, the national solar car team race, where the kids actually build a solar car and then race it. And they placed 3rd for their first time, which was actually a really, really cool. And then this year, they're in the process of starting their construction and building of a solar boat. So there are many great opportunities for students in the STEM Academy. Our goal is not to limit our opportunities for STEM to just students in the Academy. We have several pathways, many of which are articulated on the slide in front of you. And one of them that I wanted to focus on or point out is health science. So our health science pathways are very, very popular. At each of our 6 high schools, we have 6 traditional campuses, and at each of those high school campuses, students are able to engage in CTE coursework. And about 60% of our 60,000 students in Arlington, when they're in their high school ages, they engage in CTE coursework. The first 2 years are at the traditional high school, and that's basically their basic courses. And then when they get into more advanced coursework, they move to the Career and Tech Center, the Diaper Career and Tech Center. And we service approximately 4,600 students every 2 days in that school. And we actually have more interest in these pathways than we have space for. So we're actually in the process of potentially adding on to that school, even though it's only been open for 2 years. You can notice in the certification areas that these are some of the certifications that our students can acquire that allow them to move directly into the job force when they leave us. One of the things that's really important for us is that our students engage in capstone and practicum experiences throughout their high school career so that they can apply these things in a real world setting and gain those skills that I was mentioning earlier, which were soft skills. what I'd like to do is turn the microphone, so to speak, over to Carrie Winter, our practicum specialist, and she'll be able to share with you a little bit more about those capstone experiences, as well as other additional opportunities we have for our students in those pathways. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. This is Carrie Winter, and my primary role as practicum specialist is to connect students in their senior year in an internship opportunity within their pathway. And so our internship within Arlington ISD is referred to as a practicum. This is a CTE course. It is application-based. Students apply and are potentially accepted and then interview with companies. And so you're seeing some pictures there of our interns within Arlington ISD. And so the goal for this is for the student to take what they have learned in the classroom and then be able to apply that in a hands-on work experience where they will become better problem solvers and critical thinkers. They become much better at communication. These are our goals for our students in their internship or practicum. Next slide, please. So what we have seen are all of the different enrichment opportunities that our interns have in their senior year. And this, we've been experiencing a lot of this lately as students have gone through their onboarding. I've had the opportunity to attend some of these, and it's great to watch the students have these experiences where in many cases they're offered the ability to, the potential to set up a 401k and even have employer match in some cases. These interns are attending all kinds of meetings, business meetings with their teams. They also receive a lot of training. In many cases, they have opportunities for additional certifications within the company. These interns will attend holiday parties and different office gatherings. They get to participate in lunch and learns and have the opportunity to serve as a mentor or have a mentor within the company. They go to conferences in many cases. They also get the opportunity to participate in community service. And so we've had companies engage in projects like Habitat for Humanity, and the students get to participate as interns. And all of our interns will make an end-of-year presentation, typically at the company, to their teacher, to their boss, to their supervisor, to other company members and representatives, to reflect on the growth and lessons learned throughout the year. And I have to say that that's the best part for me of the whole experience, is to see the growth that the student has had. Next slide, please. So we're often asked about the advantages for students and for the business. Obviously for the student, the biggest advantage here would be that real world experience that they're able to take part of in their high school years. In many cases, this is going to lead to their actual first job. And we have partners that kind of make a commitment in many cases to have the student back in their college years to intern during the summer. And we've seen students sign offers and get to experience their first job upon college completion. We've also seen some students continue on as employees during college, or in other cases lead to full-time employment. Obviously, many personal growth experiences for the student. They are building their resume. They have to have a resume to get to this point, but then they've got even more experience after this year in their senior year, in this experience that they can add to their resume. We see an increase for sure in their self-confidence, their ability to communicate with others. We see an increase in their marketability to employers. They just become even more confident by the end of this experience. And what businesses are telling us is, in most cases, the motivation there is to create, a pipeline for talent, because this is going to create the opportunity for them to recruit future employees. And so we see that in almost every case. Businesses have also told us that this allows their staff to have more free time to work on other things that are needed, and with the help of the interns, which then increases the productivity. This is a way for our businesses to give back to our community, to support our students, We are appreciative for that. Next slide, please. So what we've done here is list our different partners that we have interns participating in different STEM experiences. So you see a list there of our engineering partners. We have, in the case of Bell, I want to talk about this for a minute. In the case of Bell and Lockheed Martin, this is a three-party partnership that we have with the business, with Arlington ISD, and with Project Lead the Way. So these are Project Lead the Way students who have then have this opportunity to apply with the company for the internship. What I am seeing in this role is very exciting. We are seeing in many, many cases the company able to expand from year to year on what interns they're able to take. And so in several of these cases, we'll see more than just more than an engineering student. We may see an engineering student and an IT student, a manufacturing student, a variety of pathways represented with one business, and that is very exciting as we go forward. So you see the list there of our engineering opportunities. We also have, as Dr. Wirtz mentioned, a heavy focus with health science. We also have health science, biomedical science interns, and so you see a list there of where we have interns working this school year for 2019-2020. Next slide, please. We also have students in veterinary sciences. These students are receiving their veterinary assistant certification, and this is a list of our partners working with these vet interns this school year. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon. This is Susan Patterson, and I just wanted to kind of tie this up with a bow and through Dr. Wirtz and Carrie's discussion. I hope you can see that we are really trying to strengthen our STEM pipeline through various programs, and we experience the same challenges that you see nationwide. And our commitment to increasing and building our curriculum that's rigorous, and our partnerships to increase our diversity, that's our commitment. That's our commitment K-12 and to our community to strengthen resources for our students and build the pipeline for success. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share our story with you in hopes to build our network and our understanding around the issues and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the entire team from Arlington Independent School District. And if anyone has any questions for them or would like to get in touch with them, please enter your information into the chat and we will get you guys sorted. Our next presenter is Micron Technology, and Kathy, if you want to take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be part of this What's Working webinar and to be included in the document itself. Go ahead to next slide. I wanted to start off by just making sure everyone knows what Micron as a company does. It's not really a household name, but when I'm out in the classrooms, I point out to the kids, have you ever seen that Intel Inside sticker? And talk about Intel has the CPU, well, Micron has the memory units. So Micron makes memory products that go into end products all over the world, and everybody probably interacts with them every single day. Go ahead, next slide. So this is a snapshot of Micron. We've been headquartered in Boise, Idaho for over 40 years and in over 18 countries now. One thing that's great to point out to students when they come on site is that we have one of the largest patent portfolios of any corporation with over 40,000, and we actually have a wall that lists all of our patents, and so it's pretty impactful when we show the students when they come on site. We are the 4th largest semiconductor company in the world, and again, if you have a product that holds information, you likely have a Micron memory product inside of that. Next slide. Where I work is Micron Gives. So we're a foundation, and our tagline is Foundation of Giving for Good. You'll see a couple different areas that we focus here. We have a corporate goodness tool and a lot of volunteerism, sponsorships, in-kind donations. We've gone through a lot of changes in how we're doing some of our, we don't manufacture here in Boise, but we are updating our tools. So we donate lots of tools and furniture to school districts. And then on the foundation side, a lot of grants, matching gifts, and we have employee goals around both matching gifts and the volunteerism. And so the foundation's been going strong since 1999, and I work in the STEM outreach team. We focus on kindergarten through 12th grade. There's also a university relations team. The K-12 team has been doing STEM outreach since before the foundation actually started, and all of our focus is on interactive experiences. So in the elementary ages, we're in classrooms. In the secondary schools, we have career presentations. We invite students on site for visits. We have job shadows. We also have summer camps in the secondary area. But next slide. Today, I want to focus on our girls programs. Go ahead, next slide. And we have a number that are girls focused, but the one I'm going to talk about today is really our Girls Going Tech, which is focused on 8th grade girls. Next slide. So we do have company goals for volunteerism. And again, this slide just talks to why the company continues to support a foundation. And we have volunteer goals of, actually this next year, we're going to try to double the percentage of employees that volunteer. And in Boise, where we're headquartered and where all of the foundation and STEM outreach started, we're probably over 50% of all volunteer hours. The other volunteer hours would be going to maybe the food bank, Habitat for Humanity, other things that are around improving and enhancing the communities. STEM Connector highlights the difference between a long-term and short-term impact of STEM outreach. Our K-12 team is definitely about the long-term. We're wanting to have a stronger STEM workforce eventually for Micron, but we want to just build more of the STEM education infrastructure. We've been doing that in Boise. We're seen as a leader in Boise, and now we're being asked to go to other Micron locations. Our university outreach efforts, that is definitely more focused on the short term. We're getting internships as well as ultimately partnering with HR and recruiting. Next slide. So our girls programs, I mentioned there's a few. The top one, Girls Going Tech, is what I'll go into in much more detail. We also have a program at high schools. We call it Women in Technical Careers, or WITSE. This is a speakers bureau. We provide guest speakers in a very casual environment. We actually had our first one for the year yesterday. I had about 25 9th through 12th graders. We bring some snacks or lunch, depending on the timing. And this is not just Micron employees. There's women in technical careers from multiple companies all across, we call our area the Treasure Valley. And so it's trying to get a diverse view for the girls to know that, oh, there's a lot of different opportunities for me. And we really try to also get at least one college student. I know that women that have had long technical careers have a lot to share, but sometimes that younger face can really connect with those high school girls. And then we have a program that's called Careers in High Tech World. That's a job shadow. And so the students come on site. That's for 11th and 12th grade students. We've had as many as 30% girls, but we really want to try to find a way to increase those numbers. We partner with Society of Women Engineers, as well as a lot of other groups that do STEM-focused activities for girls. And in addition, we have a CHIP camp. That's our summer camp. The CHIP is a play on our Micron Technology memory chip. And that has, in the past, we've struggled to get girls, like even a quarter number to get girls. This last summer, we were right around 40%. So we're still trying to find ways to get more girls interested in signing up, but it still has a little ways to go. That said, we sometimes get pushback. We have these great programs for girls. Where's the program for boys? Well, pretty easily we can say, whenever we have a co-ed event, historically we get 70 to 80% boys. And so there's still definitely a need to be recruiting the girls more and more. Next slide. So this is our Girls Going Tech. Quick little blurbs about it. I'll go into more detail. We host it at Micron. It is specifically for 8th grade girls. We've been doing 2 to 3 events for the last probably 15 years. And the day involves just an intro to Micron, hands-on activities, as well as career discussions. We use a lot of volunteers, 30 to 50, depending on how much lead time we have for each of these. Behind the scenes, there's the room setup, there's folder stuffing, there's printing of papers, there's getting the hands-on material set. And this is something that a lot of Micron employees find a lot of satisfaction in. And they can return to their desk knowing that the work they do, even though they have ups and downs, they were able to inspire and support this program for the girls. The reason that we do 8th grade girls, lots of studies show that girls lose interest in STEM around 4th and 8th grade. We've been asked why not include 7th grade girls. When we've done programs for secondary students, we see that the ability to focus, sit through career talks. It's 8th grade is really kind of that sweet spot where they're able to listen and really reflect, as well as 8th grade is the next year is when they're going into high school. So we can apply this to what their next couple years may be in terms of classes. Next slide. So Girls Going Tech, the way we set it up, we engage directly through the counselors or through the math and science teachers. We've seen a great change going on in the school districts around Micron, specifically in Boise and the neighboring school district, West Ada is what it's called. And they have put career counselors in a lot of the junior highs or the middle schools. And so being able to connect with those counselors can really do a lot to promote the event. We offer 8 to 10 spots per school. Some schools that are larger request more. The smaller schools, we have some schools that drive from like 2 hours away. They don't even get 8 girls interested, so they might bring 4 to 6. And we're happy to, anyone that can come to Micron, we're happy to host them. The way that we let the schools decide how they pick the girls. A lot of schools focus on those top achievers. If I have the opportunity to influence who they select, I kind of try to ask for those girls that show potential. Maybe they're not the top students, but they have a special knack for creativity, for problem solving. So really trying to expose a broader set of girls that may not be obvious that they're going to go into STEM, but they have the potential. Our focus is really on the interactive STEM experiences. And so when we set them up in their teams, we focus on making sure that they're experiencing it on their own. They're not with anyone from their school. So as they walk into the room, if you can imagine, we've got a school that arrives with their 8 to 10 students, and the girls walk in, we ask them to look at their badge, because on their badge we label that they're on a certain team. And then they look at their classmates and they notice that their classmates aren't in their team. And what we want to avoid is having the girls there with their best buddy, and they're going to experience it with their friend and check with their friend about what they're feeling. And by separating it out and have these girls at a table team not know anybody, they're all at the same level. And then finding ways to learn from those other girls at your table from just your own experience. This quote by Marian Wright Edelman, it really speaks to me in terms of why we want to do more girls outreach as well as any other underserved populations. Marian Wright Edelman was a civil rights leader, and it wasn't necessarily just about STEM, but truly a girl that could be a great engineer, scientist, anything in the world of STEM. How would she know that there's a job for her if she can't see somebody that is in that role? So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of our Girls Going Tech. In addition to the program, we feed them, we give them some giveaways, and we also have an evaluation at the end to find out what went well for them, what did they experience. We also have an evaluation for the counselors, the chaperones that come along. Next slide. Here's a sample agenda. So as they arrive at Micron, we give them that kind of overview that I gave you at the very start. The names of their teams are relevant to the semiconductor industry. There's a silicon team, there's a wafer team. So we really want them to walk away at least knowing something about Micron, the technology, but the focus is really on what their future could be for the future. So there's an icebreaker for these 5 strangers that are at the table together. They do career discussions. Oftentimes, the career discussions are hard to get the girls to interact. And so I offer a page of questions that they could ask so they don't have to sit and think, oh, is this a dumb question or not? It just sometimes you see on their faces that they're not ready to ask something or they don't know the right question to ask. When they go to the career discussions, so imagine we have a group of 80 to 90 girls, we break them into 4 different teams. And so now they have a group of 20 some girls going in to hear a career discussion presented by maybe a chemist that works at Micron or a electrical engineer that works at Micron, could be a physicist, could be an environmental engineer. So they do some smaller group discussions, and then the hands-on STEM activities, it's more, it's a larger group. So it's about half of the girls, but they're still within their teams, 4 to 5 per team. And there's no competition per se, but you can start to see some of the competition come out. There's no awards for who did what, but the idea is that we want them to experience a team building activity, understand some of the engineering design process as well. Then we have lunch and we do a Q&A panel during lunch. So even though the girls would love to just get back together with their buddies at lunch, we ask them to stay with their teams, make it that full day experience. And then the Q&A panel, it goes on for, we schedule about 25 minutes for it, but typically we have to cut it off at 35 minutes. Think about the girls have had one hands-on STEM activity, and then they've heard from a couple Micron women, and then now they have this opportunity to ask any question they want. And the questions run the gamut. They ask about work-life balance. They ask about what is it like to work in a male-dominated field. They ask about what's the funnest part of your job. So the panel has been a huge success. We've just done that over the last couple years. In the afternoon, we swap the girls because half of them did one activity and the half did the other in the morning. So we swap them and then we do an evaluation and then a parting gift after they turn in their evaluation. And again, with the discussions, as much as we can, we want the girls to ask their questions. So even though we have the women that are speaking to them are prepared with 20 minutes to talk with slides and such, if the questions take off for the girls, we just let it go. And we really want the girls to get their thoughts shared and their notions understood, or some of those, you know, stereotypes broken down for them. Next slide. So this slide, this quote I pulled from the State of STEM report that STEM Connector put together. And when we talk about growing our STEM programs, which is what we're dealing with right now, this really resonated in terms of what if they don't have a way to get to the table? And so as we look to offer different types of programs, we're trying to figure out a way, how can we get more girls involved? In the Boise area, the city area, largest population, that's where most of the opportunity is. In some of the bigger metropolitan areas, that may not be the case, but what we've learned is the outer lying areas have less STEM outreach opportunities specifically for girls. So as we grow, next slide, the idea is that if we're going to expand, we don't necessarily need to offer more in the same areas. So here at Micron, do I want to do 4 or 5 events? Well, what we have is an issue of, like I said, we've got students coming from 2 hours away trying to get to us. So what we're trying to do is take our events to the population centers that don't have as much. And so can we hit those areas? So we're in the east end of our valley. So this fall, we're actually putting on one of our Girls Going Tech events in the west end of the valley, partnering with one of the universities in the area. We did appreciate very much the input to impact report by STEM Connector in those 5 main gaps. And that demographic gap was the key that we thought, if we could find a way to offer more that's easily accessible by women in those demographic areas that don't have as much, that would seem like a big win. The partnership is also a key. If we can share our volunteers, our curriculum, venues, or even those companies that already do STEM outreach, such as we did a partnership with Microsoft in Boise. And now we're looking at offering Microsoft partnerships at our other Micron locations. In Sacramento, we did an event with the Sacramento Kings. We had a girls STEM event after one of their girls Junior Kings basketball camps. And so finding those opportunities that we don't necessarily have to take what we've done in Boise, which has been growing for over 20 years. There's two of us doing this in Boise. We can't duplicate it at other locations. We're not going to get headcount at every other Micron location. So can we contact organizations already doing STEM outreach and offer Micron employees as volunteers? In the Bay Area, we partnered with the Silicon Valley Education Foundation, and we provided about 24 volunteers to go out to their summer math program. And that had great feedback from the volunteers, as well as awesome feedback from the educators and students that were involved. So that is what my presentation is for today. I welcome connections with anyone that has questions. And again, I appreciate being part of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was great. And like she reiterated, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and I will get them directed to her. Finally, our wonderful last presentation of the day, but not least, of course, is Katie Schultz from Black & Veatch. Katie.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to join this webcast today, and I really appreciate hearing from the Arlington School District and all that they're doing, and then from Micron. I think this will build on kind of what I'm hearing as far as the passion to make sure that we're engaging STEM across the age groups. So if we can go to the next slide. I want to kind of share with you a program that once these students that we've been talking about for the last 30 or 40 minutes, once they do get into this workforce, and for us, we're an engineering company, once they come in, how do we make sure they stay engaged in the STEM fields, and how do we make sure that their jobs remain interesting to them throughout their careers? Next slide, please. So if you're not familiar with Black & Veatch, we are about a 10,000 person company. We've been around for over 100 years, and we do engineering and construction in the major infrastructure markets. So power, water, and telecommunication have kind of been our bread and butter for the last many, many, many years. This is really, it's a great company to be a part of. It's exciting to be a part of it, but as you might imagine, when we have these really well-established industry silos that we've gotten into and we've become really good at them, it can become really challenging for us to, say, move talent across those silos. It can mean that our quality is really high and our ability to compete on projects is really high, but it means that cross-selling for our clients and making sure that they know we can solve your power needs, we can also solve your water needs and your telecom needs, and even beyond that as we've grown our business. We have other verticals that we can help our clients with. But how do we help our professionals get visibility across those lines rather than just maybe the one that they're getting exposure to as they kind of enter Black & Veatch? Next slide, please. So the problem we were facing, and the tool I want to kind of share with you, is that a lot of times we have professionals who say, oh my goodness, we're swamped. Or conversely, wow, we have a lot of folks on the bench right now. And so that ebb and flow of staffing was one piece that we were looking at and trying to solve. We also have times when we say our client's asking for something unique, and our particular group, silo, vertical, our business line hasn't necessarily solved that in the recent past, but surely someone here has. So with those two problems, our goal was to connect them with the people who could say, hey, my workload is light, I can help where you guys need, or I have done that. I've worked on that type of specialty need that you have. I may not sit in your business line, but I'm over here and I'm happy to help. That was really the impetus for the program that we launched. It's called Next Stops that I want to share with you today. Next slide, please. So our goal for, we talk a lot about from to at a company like Black & Veatch that has a 100-year history and legacy, that how do we make sure we're ready for the next 100 years? And so with this tool in particular, our goal was to go from siloed career ladders where you maybe came into our power group and you grew up through our power group, or you came into our water team and you always stuck with that water team. And those are really meaningful careers for people, and that's awesome. But as I said, as work ebbs and flows, as professionals say, I've learned what I wanted to learn here, or the markets are shifting and there doesn't seem to be the same kind of work I was anticipating. How do we ensure that they can have that work variety, but stay with our company? We also knew there's hidden opportunities that maybe, like I said, a group says we really need such and such skill set, and there's someone out there who, if they just knew that was needed, could raise their hand. Uneven utilization, the need to balance those workloads so some people aren't staying here, 60, 70 hours a week through a major project crunch while another group has people sitting on the bench just kind of looking for something to work on. Those things don't happen over long periods of time, but there's these ebbs and flows over, a few weeks or months that we wanted to try to even out. Difficulty finding that specialized talent versus talent on demand. And then that being overstaffed or understaffed when we have these growth initiatives where we're trying to grow new business lines, to saying, can we have some just-in-time people we can reach out to, rather than we're going to start a new business line and we got to hire a whole bunch of people. Well, for the startup period, it'd actually be really nice to reach into that existing labor force. So this was kind of our from-to view of what we were trying to accomplish when we launched this new program. Next slide, please. So here were the challenges. We had this kind of idea. The idea was, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if we could kind of do Uber for engineers, an internal platform where professionals could say, I've got a need, and someone could say, hey, I can help. In theory, that sounds kind of simple and exciting, and it was. But then when you really dig into how are we going to actually execute something like that, there's actually a lot of risks, I would say, that we had to think about. So security. How do we make sure that our professionals can have single sign-on, that as they share project details, we don't compromise any of our data on those projects. So from an IT perspective, how do we lock that piece down? When you think about risk from a legal or HR perspective, there's a lot of employment loss to think about, and Black & Veatch is a global company. So that means that where a professional maybe in the United States would feel comfortable with using language around a job requirement to say, we'd be looking for someone with 5 years experience doing XYZ design. In fact, in the UK, there's lots of legal language requirements around saying anything about years of experience. And so how do we ensure our professionals don't unwittingly get us into some, challenges by offering up language that maybe isn't permissible across the different geographies that we serve? And then non-exempt and exempt. Those are kind of specialty HR pieces that usually by the time you become a manager of many professionals, you start to learn and understand the different laws around non-exempt professionals. But when you open up a marketplace to anyone out there who has a need, maybe it's this week I'm swamped and I'm trying to do something as simple as converting a bunch of documents to a PDF, so I'm just going to drop this out there. I don't know anything about what exempt and non-exempt means. You may get, again, into some challenges if you don't recognize how some of those requirements work for a non-exempt professional. Compliance from a federal or a finance perspective. You have cross-business unit charges. If anyone out there has cross-business verticals, that can become really challenging as far as if someone from a different part of the business is wanting to charge to your project. There's some financial pieces you have to think about with that. And then we had to be affordable. So overhead costs are always something to consider in our business, and we didn't want to buy a platform that was going to be really expensive. So these were the challenges that we had to overcome. Next slide, please. So we developed a place for people to post short-term tasks. We said less than 13 weeks was kind of how we came up with our boundaries for what we called short-term. It's really important to even have those boundaries from an HR perspective, because we knew we didn't want to have to go through rigorous decision-making on who gets to do the task. We wanted it to be pretty organic, the way an Uber can say, I'll take the red car, the blue car, the green car. We wanted to be able to say, okay, first professional that responded looks good. Anyone can convert PDF files, so I'm not going to be picky. Well, if you get into like a long-term opportunity, we should be picky about how we make those decisions to ensure equity. So we feel like 13 weeks, that's not going to really impact someone's career, so let's make sure that we don't go beyond that boundary. We said available to most professionals. Again, we had to think about, can contingents do this kind of work? Can independent contractors do this work? And we chose to exclude those. Those were some of the ways we balanced that risk. The other way we balance the risk, and it doesn't pop up on the screen, but the first time you would access Next Stops inside of Black & Veatch, you would have to watch a video. We took some, I literally got on the Uber site and said, what would they make me do if I was going to become an Uber driver? And I learned they have you watch videos, and they do a phone interview with you to just ensure you're the right kind of person to be an Uber driver. We said, well, let's take a page from their book and let's build a video that is mandatory to watch before you can access the site. So once you've watched the full 5-minute video, it drops a cookie on your machine and you don't have to watch it again. But it's important to set those ground rules around exempt, non-exempt, around not being able to use contingents, and the why, so our professionals know that there's good reason that we make those kinds of decisions. Next slide, please. So we built this thing called Next Stops. It's an online platform where our professionals can post what we call an opportunity. We want to be really careful with that language to say it's not a job, it's a short-term task, or what we call an opportunity for professionals to say, hey, I can help. Anything less than 13 weeks. Another piece just to think about with that 13 weeks was we thought that would be a really nice number for people who need to take leave of absences, particularly like maternity leave. So someone could step in and fill those shoes for that period of time. But one of our key requirements was that this site needed to be very simple to use. So our professionals simply have to go in and click this add opportunity, and they get this very simple form. We've timed it. Most professionals, once they have all the information they needed for the form, it's a 2-minute exercise at most, to kind of explain the opportunity, what the hours might look like, any kind of extra requirements that they may have, and then they can get it out there and post it. Next slide, please. We also really wanted to make sure that the steps were crystal clear and really simple, again, to the point of this is meant to save them time, not to add burden to their busy lives. And so we've made simple infographics. So in this case, if you're someone who said, I've got a task I need help with, you'd figure out what that task looks like. You'd add that opportunity like I just showed you. You'd complete the quick form. You'd get responses by email through the system. You would select who you felt like was the best candidate to complete the task, and then you'd work through traditional means of email and phone calls to get them started on their task. So we really this platform really facilitates that match. Next slide, please. The other piece we felt was really important, and we realized out of the gate, we can build a platform, but our professionals who are not used to working in this gig kind of economy just yet would ask, what on earth do you think I'm going to post out there? We're all very used to the way we've always done work. So to get them thinking about a new way to do work, we brainstormed with some of our earlier career professionals who had all sorts of ideas of, gosh, think about how we could peel this piece off or this piece off. And we could hand that to someone else, someone who has some availability. These would be easier tasks to peel away than some kind of really complex design that you have to be intimately familiar with that business unit or that client. So they helped us brainstorm all sorts of tasks, and we use that as a flyer when we do booths around our business to share this platform out with our professionals. We share this kind of a handout with them of, here's some ideas if you're having a hard time thinking of when to use it. And then we also had success stories. As we rolled this out and people were brave enough to give it a shot, we started hearing really good things about how much they appreciated connecting to a professional who had the skill they needed, filling their team needs so that they didn't have to work till 10 o'clock at night to meet a client deadline. Those success stories really fueled us as well to say we're on the right track, and the more people can hear how this has worked for others, the more success they may find themselves. And so we've made it a point to make sure these success stories stay top of mind for our professionals as well. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a screenshot of what our professionals would experience on a day-to-day experience of going out to Next Stops and just searching what all is out there. So they would look through these, that they clicked into them, they could see a little bit more detail behind there as far as kind of more about the client, more about the requirements, etc. And then they would simply say, I'm interested, and that would populate an email to the person who'd posted this, and they can start the dialogue. They also have a chance to kind of see what's been fulfilled in the past if they're curious, like, how does this work? Again, we have had no shortage of people willing to raise their hand and do the work. Our challenge has been in encouraging our business to think about how they may do work differently to kind of peel off some gigs where appropriate. Next slide, please. So again, here's our infographic for our responders, the professional who says, I've got some time, how can I help? So we made it really clear it's important to keep your supervisor in the loop. That was a big piece of getting adoption by our business, is to know that we weren't going to have folks just running around rogue and doing all sorts of things without their supervisor knowing. So we did a big campaign to make sure everyone knows, keep your supervisor in the loop. But from there, it's real simple, reviewing the opportunities, posting any comments if you need clarification, and then expressing interest and waiting to see if you are notified that you were selected. And if so, get started and do a really good job. We talk about that this could be a possibility to grow your career, demonstrate capabilities, build capabilities, but doing a good job and delivering is always paramount. So we want to make sure that the platform is seen as a place to find qualified professionals willing to do the work. So we always make sure we follow up on that piece as well. Next slide, please. So what we found through the last about 2 years that we've been operating this platform is that this has really done 3 things. The exciting thing to kind of piggyback on what we've been hearing so far today is that enabling growth, enabling people to realize what more is possible with their future. So for them to get exposure to what are other business lines doing, even if maybe they're not ready to say, yes, I think I can help this time, just seeing some of those things pop up has actually sparked a lot of interesting conversations between people. Did you know that they're chasing this kind of work? Oh, that's really interesting type of thing. So enabling people's growth is a big piece. Improving utilization to make sure that teams aren't ebbing and flowing quite as dramatically as they had been in the past. And then identifying these unique skill sets. So as some of our growth markets start to explore what might be possible in places we haven't traditionally played, we've had people reach out and say, this may be a long shot, but we're looking for someone with a really unique skill set that we don't know that exists in Black and Beach. And they have been able to surface some people who've been in places in their past and built tools that had kind of gone dormant, that they're now ready to say, hey, I could bring that tool out and sharpen it up again and help Black and Beach in this way. So 3 really nice outcomes that we've already seen with this new platform. Next slide, please. And then I did want to share, we keep track of our metrics and how the platform's being utilized through Power BI, just to understand how much cross-business sharing is this creating. We believe cross-business exposure for our professionals creates a better future of cross-selling, understanding one another's markets better, sharing of best practices. We are really big fans of making sure our professionals' careers stay engaging and interesting, so they'll be likely to stay with Black and Beach because they know they can build a really dynamic, exciting future here. So all the HR team has access to our platform, Power BI dashboard, just to make sure they keep an eye on how are things going and where are we growing with this. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just wanted to leave you with a couple of our success stories because I think these are a lot of fun. So does it work? To the extent that a business unit is brave enough to say, gosh, let's just try and see what happens. This is a free platform. We actually leverage Microsoft SharePoint, so this platform costs us very, very little to operate. If they're brave enough to just put a post out there and give it a try, we've found that we've had great successes. So a couple of just testimonials here. We had a quick 16-hour task that needed to be done at a water research facility. And they said most of our group was already juggling more than 40 hours a week. And there was a recent surge in projects requiring bench scale testing. They might have thought, in our old way of thinking, we may have said, well, that's the only skill that we would have in our water business. But they posted opportunity at 5 p.m. and they had 3 responses by the next morning, and they were able to truly match talent with interest. Similarly, on the non-billable side of our house, cost control and finance support. So someone was saying they needed some help. They were feeling very overwhelmed with the workload that their team was facing. We said, you should try out Next Steps. They got an awesome response from people who were not in the finance job family, but in the project controls job family, which has a lot of close alignment, and they were able to get the help that their team needed. So they're just a couple of examples of small tasks, but really can give professionals an opportunity to kind of stretch themselves or reutilize skill sets that they maybe had to let go dormant in a current role, as well as balance that workload so that none of our professionals are getting too burnt out when the project workload gets to be really heavy. So thank you for the opportunity to share this gig platform for our internal professionals at Black and Beach. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was wonderful. And we are really excited to have you guys as part of our STEM Connector membership. Additionally, if anyone, again, has any questions for Katie or any of the other wonderful speakers who shared today, please put them in the chat, or you can, as you can see, my email is there. You can email me and I will direct it to them. This is a living, growing book. If you'd like a best practice to be featured, if you want to be on our webinar series, please reach out to me and be on the lookout for the next What's Working webinar, going to come up in late October. Thank you so much again, and everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.